Petra de Sutter, there is a lot of discussion about the idea of, for instance, using three parents to create a child, the use of edited genomes in the creation of a child. You feel this is perhaps a dangerous path as yet?
Yes, well, there's actually two dimensions in this whole new technology. First of all, there is the safety issue, and even scientists agree that today it's too early to transfer a modified embryo. The three-parent technique is something a little bit different because already two children have been born, but they have been born in Mexico and Ukraine, two countries that have no regulation in this domain whatsoever. Ukraine did not ratify the Oviedo Convention, by the way. The genome editing technique is maybe even more advanced in this way, that it's changing the genome of the embryo and all its descendants. And the whole discussion is of course, in which indications could you possibly apply this. You could think about curing diseases, and then, right, maybe that this is a good application, but of course you could use it for eugenic purposes, to enhance the embryo, to give it more intelligence, whatever. Today this is not possible. We can't determine intelligence genetically yet. Maybe we will do that in 5 or 10 years. So there is different issues, and there is the idea of changing the human genome in itself and all its descendants, which is quite frightening to many people. So for the time being, my view and the report that we have voted in the committee yesterday is clearly not to allow the transfer of a genome edited human embryo for the moment in the Council of Europe countries. You never know if it might change, but my view is that we should not do it right now.
There are claims, though, that it could cure hereditary diseases like celiac disease, for instance. Well, this will be a good thing, presumably.
Yes, but again, the thing is that for the time being, everybody agrees that it is unsafe because there could be side effects. If you you cut out a gene and you replace it with another version of that gene, you could affect the genome in other places of the genome, and that could have side effects, not only for the embryo, but all the descendants. So I think we have to be extremely careful. We need much more research, maybe animal research, maybe research on human embryos without transferring them before we ever could think about such an application. And if that application would be acceptable for a majority of people, then we would need a regulatory and legislative framework to organize and to decide exactly what is possible and what is not possible in whatever countries that would adhere to that framework. So we definitely need to have that discussion now, because the technology is advancing extremely rapidly. So while we speak, maybe some group has done another experiment that advances the technology. It's going very, very fast.
Of course, with the invention of the CRISPR gene editing technology, it is said now that there are people doing this sort of gene editing in their kitchens, basically. They're doing it at home if they have the knowledge. How can you stop that once the genie's out of the bottle?
Yes, well, I think you can with legislation and regulation. I'm a firm believer. I don't think we should, blindly stop technological advances in medicine. Definitely not. But we should think about in which indications what to allow and what not to allow. And again, that's why we need a public debate. And it's not only the scientists and the doctors, of which I'm an example, but it is society at large that should think about that, and that should decide what is acceptable, what do we need, and what do we not need, like enhancing human embryos, giving it better traits, whatever, to have more successful children in life later. To me, that's a no-go, honestly, and I don't think I will change my mind on that. To help people not having a handicapped child at birth, I think that's an acceptable indication. But that's for the future, because for the time being, again, the technique is unsafe. The safety has not been investigated sufficiently, and we will need another 5 years or 10 years before possibly applications in the clinic could arise. Of course, we know that maybe in some other countries in the world, things might be happening much faster than we're talking now. But at least the Council of Europe could have such a framework in place and to have a fixed position on the use of these genetic technologies in the future.